All right, thank you all for coming here today to learn a little bit about PicSeePal. My name is Brandy Wentland, and I'm a speech-language pathologist, an AAC consultant, and I've also taught an AAC course at California State University, Chico. I facilitate a lot of social groups like Out and About for people with AAC to get together in the community and form social connections. Krista Howard would have loved to have come here today. She is a lifelong user of AAC and really the passion behind me getting on board with PicSeePal. She unfortunately has COVID and wasn't able to make it to the event. Is really just distraught that she's not able to be here, but we really hope that she can meet all of you either at Isaac or at our booth next year at ATIA.
Hello, my name's Chris. I'm a special needs teacher from Australia, and I have a huge passion for making children feel safe and putting them in a position where they feel comfortable communicating with those around them, especially children who have some issues around communication. I have a huge passion for PicSeePal. It's something that I developed a couple of years ago, and I'm very proud of what we've been able to do during the launch, which was basically when COVID started. So we've done some great things that we'd like to share today, so thanks for coming.
And my name is Sarah Cruz, and I'm a speech pathologist in Sutter County in Northern California. And I work primarily with children ages 0 to 5, so I really love to help parents in the home settings and all staff in the classroom settings to get children early access to AAC.
So PicSeePal, it's a pretty awesome product. I fell in love with it because my good friend Krista Howard and I love to hang out in the pool. And she uses a Unity device, or an accent device with Unity 144, and there's no way she's going to let that anywhere near water. So we would spend 3 to 4 hours floating in the pool and not have a way to chat. And that stunk, right? And so when Chris came along and he showed me PicSeePal, I was super excited that I finally had a way to print out LightTech without using laminate to secure this, and this can be used with her in the pool, and if her son takes it and cannonballs in the pool, it's fine, it's still able to be used. It's very lightweight, which is really important because her accent device is often giving her a bruise on her leg. And so this is something she can take if she's hiking or going upstairs or something where she's a little bit worried about having something heavier. I love her accent. It's super important that she has that when she does presentations, when she's sitting at a table, that kind of thing. But there's just some situations where she needed another tool in her tool belt. It's also really customizable because you can put anything you want in it. It's basically like Tupperware for paper. Take out any kind of paper support that you want, pop it into our snap frame, and then the snap frame goes right back into the LightTech housing that you can then wear anywhere you go. It's splash proof, it's durable. A tiny bit of water does get in, so we try not to call it waterproof because I want to be really honest with you guys. But I'll tell you, the same pieces of paper, even after they're wet, I'm still using them. So that's not like they're being damaged and need to be replaced. I just open it up, dry it off, close it back together, and it's perfectly fine. So Krista wants you to know that she uses it to talk with her son when he's in the pool, and that it's an awesome, great backup for her when her device is in for repair, or oftentimes she forgets to charge it at night. It allows her to have something else to use. So one of the other reasons that we found that AAC, LightTech AAC is super important is oftentimes parents are getting AAC devices and they're afraid of the tech. Teachers are afraid of the tech, right? So this gives an opportunity for the communication partner to model on something LightTech and helps bridge the barrier so that they eventually become more comfortable with the high tech once they're familiar with where the vocabulary is at. It can also provide an immediate solution. If you're an SLP that does any AAC evaluations, then you might be like me where I'm brokenhearted because I now have to take the device away. I finally gave the child something to communicate with. I know what I want to recommend. The parent's super excited. And I had to walk out the door with that device. And now the child waits 3 or 4 months during the funding process. So when you have something like this, you can print out the pages for the device that you're recommending. And now ongoing, the parent, the child, you can capitalize on their excitement for something that they just learned to communicate with and keep that while they're waiting for the high-tech device to be funded. It's also a super low-cost entry point to AAC. a lot of school districts are afraid to purchase enough AAC devices for all the children that actually need them. When I was in my CF, I went into a middle school classroom and every single child needed AAC and not one had one. I went to my CF supervisor and I said, how do I get them AAC? And she said, well, Brandy, you can't do an AAC evaluation on every single child in this classroom in your first year as a CF. And I said, well, why not? And she said, because the district will fire you. It's a lot of money for them to spend. So we needed to come up with a LightTech option for everybody while I slowly, year after year, did 1 or 2 evaluations per year. So this is an awesome way to get a whole class solution while you're working through slowly getting the evaluations for all the kids that need them. So, still me? If you start to look at the history of AAC, it all started with LightTech, right? We were drawing pictures, we had folders, we were printing out black and white pictures at some point and then coloring them in. So LightTech has always been a part of AAC and it doesn't have to go away. It's not like we graduated from it and now that goes away. It can still be a part of what we do. We can keep our HighTech and our LightTech and use them in the situations that we need them. If you start to look at things like Project Core, an awesome resource and great data and research behind it, they recommend having LightTech within 3 feet, always needs to be in arm's reach. So this is an opportunity that in addition to the child's HighTech device that should be on their desk and open at all times, not in their backpack, but that also the staff can reach and grab something if they forgot it somewhere, if it is in the backpack. We can have LightTech all over the classroom. Each staff member can now have a copy. So if you have teachers or paras that say, I don't have an iPad, the district won't fund an iPad for me, district won't buy me that app. Guess what? Now we have something that the district will fund that's a lot cheaper so that everybody can be modeling and reaching and grabbing the LightTech around the classroom. So let's take a look at the process.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, that's loud. Okay, so this is the PicSeePal process. So it's a little loud. So essentially what you do is you take a screenshot of any AAC that your student uses, you use, whatever, and we have a template where you insert that image right into the template and you can resize it and it shows you the boundaries. It's literally the same shape and size as the snap. So what's great about that is that as soon as you insert it and shape it, tells you where to put it inside the boundaries, so when you cut, it's not cut off on accident. And then you go ahead and hit print, and then it's the perfect size, and it'll tell you where to cut around the border. You can insert it right in here. So yeah, it's really a simple process. And then again, like Brandy shared, you're not having to constantly worry about having to reprint or reproduce those pages because they're in a nice housing that's keeping them, keeping them from being torn or ripped or
Absolutely. And what I'm finding with a lot of these classrooms, if you just give them a piece of paper like a core board or something like a laminated book, that ends up under the teacher's stack of stuff to do. It ends up stuffed in a desk, right? And for some reason, when you give them this LightTech housing, they treat it with a little more respect and it tends to not get stuffed under somewhere and it makes it something that they tend to have out. In fact, Sarah was finding at the district that she's at, the kids got so proud of them that what were they saying when they were running out to recess there?
Yeah, it was the cutest thing ever. So they love wearing these because they can wear them like a purse and such. So there's a set of twins and they're so cute. And one of them ran out the door and she was like, Brocky, you forgot your device. And she was carrying hers and his. It was the cutest thing. So kids just really love that and it gives them that independence of like, this is my device. You know, it's not just a piece of paper. It's got a little more value. So you can turn off the sound on this. I don't know if we can make it larger, can we?
Do we want to play it or do we want to?
I think it's okay. Let's just pass.
Okay.
But this is just... but what I wanted to mention really quickly is if you're, when we're finished, you can grab a flyer up here on the stage, and it has this QR code at the bottom, and that's the template. So you can just scan it, you know, so you have it for future use. Okay, so one device that meets many needs. So you don't have to just use this with AAC core boards or communication systems. You can use it for so many different purposes. Like Chris, he initially developed it so that he wouldn't have to worry about messy learning in the classroom, having to continuously reproduce visuals. He had those on hand. So classroom use for sure, like so many purposes. And then if we're stretching our minds, like adult with aphasia, maybe some memory visuals and such. Hospital patients, I've heard so many times of people who maybe were intubated and they weren't provided with communication because you're not able to make it to that room, or you have so many things going on that's not available. So that's another thing to consider. Swim instructor. I mean, they don't even have to be working with a student or a kid that uses AAC. You could just, we have a picture right here at the bottom. You can see it floats pretty decently. So I mean, you can have that out there with maybe some tips on it, some strategies, and then and then just there's probably a million other ways you can use it. So it's just a really flexible device. It's not just used for AAC communication systems. There's lots of other purposes. So you're getting a lot of other things you can use it for, which is great. Okay, so why LightTech or no tech? So definitely a backup for your HighTech. Like Brandy was sharing, like we cannot have those occasions where we go, oh, no, I can't use my HighTech device like Krista. We have to always have, we need to provide this access to LightTech because because HighTech will undoubtedly fail and we'll need something else, and we don't want to wait till that happens to provide that. And then the PicSeePal preschool project, we're presenting on this actually at 4:30 today. And so what Brandy and I teamed up on is I work in a county where I noticed that all the preschool classrooms, the students were using PECs. And so I told Brandy, I was like, they're only using PECs. We need to get them more robust AAC. And what's the better way to do that than to provide LightTech in a way like this, where it's affordable and you can provide it right off the bat. There's no waiting for an evaluation. Every student's able to get access to that. So we'll talk about that more later. And then HighTech Hazards. I think it's on the next slide. Oh no, this is, okay. So we'll talk about HighTech Hazards. So things that may come up with your HighTech device. But essentially what our motto, I guess, is PicSeePal and devices are better together because it's always a thing that it needs to be a thing where you provide LightTech every time you provide HighTech. It just should be a thing. That's what we believe. So, and then like we already heard too, the PicSeePal can provide a pathway to HighTech. So people who are getting familiar with AAC, it's not as intimidating to parents too when they're really new to that process. When you provide them with this, it's a little more, they may not be as apprehensive to learn the system. It's not as intimidating as looking at a HighTech device and going, wow, there's a lot to this, like this is more simple. So that's really kind of draws people in. And then building confidence and capacity to be able to then move a little further in the process and maybe providing some other options for communication. And yeah, as competence is demonstrated, then again, being like an RTI process, we're going to talk about that in our preschool program. But as you're seeing that there's more competence demonstrated, that you're able to provide other supports for communication as well. Okay, so some general HighTech hazards for a HighTech device would be like, heat and cold, water and electricity. So some things that in cases where you have a HighTech device and you don't have a LightTech version, things that could get kind of complicated. Messy learning, like Chris shared in his classroom. Durability and high cost of maintenance. So this is very low maintenance, low cost, which is really awesome. And then HighTech AAC being left behind to keep it safe, like Brandy said. Like you don't want it being left in a stack or left behind, or having to sacrifice communication to go to the beach or snow, all those types of things. So
I have a client who participates in Special Olympics, and his mom was often not sending the device because she was afraid that it would get lost or stolen with all the events that he participates in. And he was so excited. He was petting and hugging his PicSeePal when he got it because he realized for the first time, Mom's going to send something with me. Even if it's not my HighTech, at least I have some way to communicate with people in these events.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Something that we've done since pretty much in conjunction with the beginning of COVID is we launched this company, and even despite the many challenges that faced us, I really wanted to make sure, and with Brandy's help, that we could not only provide all of this support in a LightTech capacity to areas where HighTech was present, but there was also something that's very close to my heart, and there is many people around the world, especially many children, who don't have access to that high tech, and more than likely aren't going to have access to the high tech in the near future. And so there needs to be some sort of AAC solution for them, because. So I'm going to quickly talk through some human rights stuff. The challenges with high tech, which we've definitely sort of covered, but I think just in the context of emerging economies, building capacity, what that means, and demonstrating outcomes that we've achieved already. So in the Convention for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, they actually state in one of the clauses that people have a fundamental human right to access AAC. And it's that access that I guess is the human right. And if the access is not there, then we have to understand that there is an actual breach in their human rights. And if you do that in our setting, in the US or in Australia, that breach might be small because the device is broken, and then we might be talking about minutes or hours, but that is still actually a massive breach, and we need to fix that. If we go to emerging economies, if there's no access at all to high tech, then we really need to deliver a solution. And so by bringing that in, even if we could wave a magic wand and provide high tech solutions, it was interesting, a conversation I had years ago with Rachel Maydell. She went to Nepal and she took iPads because she wanted to distribute them, but she realized that the place that she was in had no electricity. And so an iPad was a completely useless piece of technology. So LightTech in many instances is the only tech that is going to provide some sort of a sustainable solution. And also we've covered this, the backing up and supporting, and just being there for high tech. But it definitely in this part of the talk, it's really important to understand that just how critical it is to have access to light tech and to be meeting the human rights obligations. So what we've done since COVID, it was quite tricky launching a company during COVID, but we have established some amazing connections around the world. Most importantly, we teamed up with the NICA project and Cough Drop, and they ran a program. Once again, they were providing the high tech, or some high tech solutions, and we were providing the light tech. And we're across many different countries such as India, Malaysia, Peru, the United Arab Emirates, Fiji, the Federated States of Marshall Islands, many different places where there wasn't an AAC presence. And so it's not so much a company that we're building that's about raising awareness. Of course, raising awareness is important, but we're kind of like walking the walk and actually showing that action can happen, and we're trying to instigate that and kind of lead the way for others. We also privately supporting a lot of communities, especially in Thailand and Brazil and in Guatemala. A lot of that's through stuff that Brandy was already doing, and building the capacity. And this is something that is very important to me to kind of say something about, because obviously building capacity in individuals, but once you build the capacity in an individual, you start to build capacity within a family unit, whatever that may look like, and then in a school, and then in a wider community. And when you build capacity out in concentric circles like that, it's very strong. And that means that the communication is going to be more sustainable because people can see the value in what it's bringing. And you might be doing that in a place where at the moment it's not present. We are working with Catherine Dorney, who's quite a remarkable academic, and prior to COVID happening, we were like 10% into designing a research project in Cambodia. We got massively interrupted by COVID. We're starting that up again, but Cambodia is a great example of a place where prior to the OIC Cambodia, this bottom logo here being set up, which was an Australian charity, prior to them going into Cambodia, there was 0 speech therapists in Cambodia for a very large population of people, and that meant that no one even knew what AAC was. And so we see our role as very important, to bring knowledge to countries like that and build capacity within a whole country. We've just recently started a collaboration with Seaboard, which is part of UNICEF. There's some really exciting things happening there, once again, that Brandy's kind of leading. I think this is a really amazing. We've been talking about Amanda all day, and I think that I'll let you read this quote. It's a very powerful thing, and I think this is pointing out globally what is possible with AAC and what we're sort of we're aiming for in the future.
It might be too small a font.
Too small a font? Okay, cool. We've been using multimodal communication at Flindell since the beginning. So when we handed 2 of our students their brand new personalised PicSeePals, they knew exactly what to do. There wasn't a dry eye in the room as the children joyfully pointed to symbols and accompanying their words with gestures, facial expressions, and lots of excitement. They beamed with pride as they walked out of the centre with their PicSeePals securely placed around their sides. And we're thrilled to know that each of them have a durable, practical and effective communication system to accompany them wherever they choose to go. One of the big reasons why I made this is so the kids, because I'm working in special ed, we had great systems in our classrooms, but the kids weren't taking the systems out onto the playground or out with them, and that once again there's that breach in ability to access communication. And a big thing that we learnt, and I guess it's something that we kind of knew but hadn't really put it together, and when Amanda said it, it's really stuck with us, and that is that if someone was walking around Guatemala and jumped on a bus with an iPad hanging around their neck, there's not going to be a good outcome for that individual. So in that instance, it's actually a safety issue to have the HighTech available. And so, yeah, we feel very passionate about this. Obviously, we want to do our backing up and supporting HighTech in countries such as the US, where HighTech is a known thing. But we want to do both, and I think we can do both. I think we are doing both. Thank you so much for coming. Really thoroughly appreciate you spending the time. I know it's. Are you having a good time at the conference? Yeah? Awesome. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. I love how you bring it so close.
Thank you.